So here we are in downtown Miami, and as you can see and hear, there's all sorts of activity. I'm on a 2017 Kawasaki Versys 1000. And for those of you who have followed my progress over the years, you'll take note that this is not the 650. I recently updated my 2015 650 Versys via this model, which is a 2017 Versys 1000. And 1,000 miles on, I am very pleased with my decision. The 650 is a fantastic bike. It has everything you would want from an urban assault vehicle, but I found that it lacked a little bit in the power department, especially loaded up going long distances. And I like to be able to hop on the bike and do the 300-400 mile day, or you know, a 2,000 mile trip when time permits. And this 1000 just has such a polished, refined and muscular feel relative to the 650. I mean, make no mistake, I'm a big fan of the 650. I think at that price point, it's one of the best bikes you can buy, period. But I would argue that this 1000 is similar in its bang for the buck, and also has just much more capability when it comes to long distance touring. It also has a certain fun quotient that I think is just a little more exciting than the 650. And that's courtesy of his 110 horsepower, 70 foot-pounds of torque motor. A motor, mind you, that has the exact same torque output as the V-Strom 1000 until it basically leaves the V-Strom 1000 in its dust after about 6,500 RPM. And that's impressive, given that this is an inline 4. You would think that it would be more of a screamer, but at 1,050 cc's and the way they've tuned it for low end and mid-range, it really does feel like a twin down low, yet pulls like a freight train up top. I mean, it's a remarkably stout bike. And some of the other features that this bike has that the 650 did not have include the slipper clutch, which gives you a remarkably light feel on the clutch lever, especially when you're riding in traffic. It also has traction control, 3 settings that you can adjust on the fly, including I guess a 4th setting, which would be no traction control, as well as 2 power modes, full power and then low power, which is 75% of full power. ABS, of course. The only thing that I found lacking is the stock windscreen. It does buffet you a bit. Now I'm 5'11" with somewhat of a short torso, so it's not terrible, but I do think that the windscreen could be a little larger, but Kawasaki makes a touring windscreen, so that's not really an issue there. The other thing I love about this bike is the seat. The stock seat is amazing. It's really wide, gives you a lot of room to move around. Its foam is pretty stable. It doesn't just, you know, after an hour in the saddle, it doesn't feel like you're sitting on the subframe. It's keeping its shape pretty well. And then the handling department. While it is true that this bike has I think about 70 pounds more weight than the 650. It doesn't feel it. I mean, at lower speeds in a parking lot, yes, but once you get it up to speed, it really handles well. And while it is a little top heavy, you can feel it. It falls into corners pretty quickly as a consequence, and for some that might be a little unsettling, but in my estimation it makes for a very light input, a light touch to get it going from side to side. And I think that really hides its weight well. I mean, the bike just handles so nicely. So here we are on this Versys 1000, and as you may see from this video, I have opted for the touring windscreen after my first trip down to Miami a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And the reason I did that is really twofold. Number one, I felt like the stock windscreen didn't fit the bike. Its proportions were a little out of whack. It's essentially the same size windscreen as what's on the 650 Versys, and the 1000 is a much larger bike, so it looked a little goofy if you ask me. The second reason that I purchased it was that in addition to it looking not quite right, the wind noise and the buffeting at highway speeds over 100 miles or so really became fatiguing. And I looked into various options. I know that companies like Puge make a aftermarket screen for this bike, and it seems like they're quite popular. But for me, I just looked at, okay, what did the factory produce for this bike? Because I imagine whatever they did was engineered with the bike in mind. And I really am happy with the choice, because I think it looks good. I think it works very well. As on my way up here, I was on the freeway for a bit and running 65-75 miles per hour, and it's extremely quiet. It really makes the ride so much more pleasant when you're not being buffeted about by wind. So nearly 2,000 miles on with this bike, I can honestly say that there's really nothing I would change about it. I think it's proven thus far to be really the perfect all-arounder for a seasoned rider. I'm not sure that this would be a good entry-level bike for anyone because of its power and its size and its height, but I think for someone who's ridden and is looking for a bike that is capable of doing a number of things while also providing some measure of passion and excitement, I think this bike ticks all the boxes.